So welcome back to the channel, everybody. So it's so hard to believe another year's in the books, but you still do have time to cross a couple of those items off of your list. And just like in today's video, it's never too late to do so. And we helped one of our customers actually cross an item off his list that's been impacting his golf game all season long. And as we sit back and reflect on what we've accomplished last year versus that of what we hope to achieve next year, there's no disputing that growing our YouTube presence is at the top of our list. So if playing better golf is on your short list, then I'm confident you're in the right place. So without further ado, let's jump in and find out how we was actually able to help one of our customers cross an item off his list. So before we dive into today's topic, I first off want to remind you about a cool contest that we're still running. We are just 95 followers away from announcing our very first winner, and the very minute we surpass 1,000 followers, one lucky winner will be randomly selected to win this baby right here, a brand new Mizuno ES21 lob wedge. It's not too late to enter the contest, and at the end of this video will be a link to this contest video. So all you got to do is click the video, follow the instructions, and you can be one step closer to actually putting this in your bag for 2021. So before we dive into numbers, first off, let's give you a little background about the player profile that we are fitting today, as well as help you understand what they're currently gaming. And they're currently playing this bad boy right here. It's a Titleist 915 D2 driver, checking in at 8.5 degrees of loft. Standard stock Diamante 65 S shaft in it, and no loft sleeve adjustments. And he said this thing has worked well for him in the past. He's won a couple club championships, and his current handicap is about a 3 or 4. So I know we have a really good skilled golfer on our hands, but he said just as of recently, this thing is not doing him any favors whatsoever. And on average, he would only hit maybe 1 or 2 fairways in the round, but when he did connect, he said, man, I flushed it, and I can get it out to, 290, 300 on the occasion. He said it's just not happening very often. And when I seen his swing speed in the baseline shots, I can definitely see he's definitely not lacking in the speed department. Average swing speed, 109 mile an hour. So now let's take a look at the customer's baseline shots. And based on your feedback, we're going to take a look at the 10 best shots across the board. Now, as these tracers start to unfold, we're entering in on the third shot. And I'm glad it caught this one because he absolutely smoked it, and it was like 294 total. And the customer quickly confirmed that this is what he sees day in and day out on the golf course. He said on the occasion he would hit this drive 1 or 2 times, but that was it, and everything else looks like these other shots here. I mean, hard snaps to the left, poor apex, poor spin issues. He says, I just really don't know what's going on. Would love to reproduce that 294 total more often. So let's dive into the numbers to see exactly where the customer was struggling. So you guys know me by now. One of the first things I like to look at, especially if there's going to be any possibility of staying in a club head for a retrofit, is how efficient is the golf ball coming off the club face. So we determine that by looking at input versus output. Input is club speed, 108.7, versus output, which is ball speed, is 146.8. So when we look at that separation, that's only what, 38, 39 mile an hour separation. I know that's horrible, okay? It's not efficient whatsoever. His best was 154.2. I would go as far to say that should be the bare minimum of his output, okay? So I just want to try to get him closer to 160 if possible, but 154 should be the price of admission. We continue to look right, backspin. That is our nemesis here, okay? Guys, so let this be a little golden nugget here, is I am looking at variables I know I can control, and then the distance itself just becomes a byproduct of that. So I'm not really chasing distance here. I'm looking at where are my outliers, where do I need to focus? And this is definitely my #1 nemesis here, right? Backspin. And I'm suspecting that it's all caused because the low loft, 8.5, and the poor CG characteristics in that head for this customer swing. And I can kind of determine that when I look at his loft, right? So take a look at dynamic loft here, right? This is presented loft at impact, and he's averaging 15.2. So it's not very great. I like to get that a little higher. I'd like to get it closer to 19, maybe 20 for his swing type, and I know that we'll be actually doing pretty good. So let's go ahead and get him out of this driver. We're going to try the Sim Max 10.5, and I'm actually going to step him up in flex. So we're going to actually put him in the stock Hazard Smoke Green 6.5 just to see how he does. So let's take a look at these tracers to see if it's any better. So no disputing that that series of shots was a lot better than the first grouping. Hit the ball a lot better. Still missing left. Spin definitely did improve. So loft did work. Got the apex up. Definitely tell by that. But still just a lot of fluctuation going on. So let's dive into the numbers. And first things first, let's actually look at the compare tab, okay? So here's where we are now. So 147 output versus 149, so a little better. Launch picked up a little bit wide, a little extra loft. Backspin almost doubled, okay? Still low though, so average backspin 1700. Want that in the mid twos if possible. Carry did get better and total got better. Now take a look at the table here, okay? All right, so this is why we don't fixate on distance, right? If we just did that, look how consistent we are with our new numbers here. 250, 240, 66. I mean, literally averaging 255. Really, really good. And look at the totals numbers. You know, we had 296, 292, and 86, 83. I mean, literally, that's what the customer asked for, right? But we're not happy because when I go back to that compare tab, just look how wide that dispersion is. I mean, it's not great whatsoever. And I'm suspecting that we might have a little bit of a swing weight issue and a timing element. Why? Because look, once again, let's go back to the table. And when you look at the table, is we want the zero fluctuation between the lines, or at least minimum fluctuation, okay? And when I'm seeing this all over the map, 1700, 2700, 1500, 1300, back to 2. I mean, it's too much variation for me to be comfortable with, and I know that there's still something going on with the timing, and that shaft or that bend profile is just still not working for the customer. So I think swing weight's an issue. We can actually add a little bit more mass to slow down that face rotation. And I think I can actually take loft down a little bit. Why? Because take a look at dynamic loft. Dynamic loft is getting a little north of 20. I want to get close to 20, but I don't want to cross 20. So I think I can take loft down, open up the face to also help mitigate that left side. So next up is the Ventus Blue 6X. Right? And we're going to actually go with the aftermarket shaft, put that in, turn it down, one click in the Sim Max driver, and add a little lead tape in the toe side to slow down that face rotation, right? We would actually make up for that with hot melt at the build phase, but here we're just going to replicate that. And so let's see how he does with this build. So when we see results like that, the first thing I like to look at isn't the table fields. I like to watch my customers' expressions, right? And believe me, my man was smiling ear to ear because every shot he was hitting, one right after the next, was just piped down the middle. I mean, my man was super, super happy. So let's take a look at the numbers just to verify, to make sure that we was able to check off all the boxes, okay? So we go into the table field here, and I like going to the compare tab, all right? Tail the tape, start to finish. 147 versus 153. We wanted to be 154, 155 minimum. We're there, okay? Launch, 15.1. Came down a little bit because we took loft down one click. Not concerned whatsoever. Backspin, for the first time, we're consistently in the 2000s, okay? That's what we needed to keep the ball in the air and to regulate that ball flight so that way he didn't have any more of those aggressive curvatures. How can we know that? Take a look at the dispersion. Look how tight this grouping is. I mean, he's not hitting it in the bucket, but these are all fairway finders. So let's take a look. Let's go back to the table, right? See how bad his worst shot to the left was. 59, so let's call it 60 feet to the left. And then his worst shot to the right was 78 feet to the right. I mean, literally, that's all hitting from the short stuff, and he's able to get a lot farther. So let's go back to the compare. 215 carry versus 269, now it's touting a 287 average total. But once again, we got to verify, was it consistent or was it just a one-trick pony, okay? So take a look. 291, 296, 88, 99. 99 was his best all day. 86, 84, 90, 81. I mean, literally, I think it's pretty safe to say we helped the customer achieve the goal of reaching 294 more often, and believe me, the customer was ecstatic. So let's do a quick recap on how we was actually able to help the customer achieve these results. Now, there was 5 key things we had to help the customer solve in order to do so, with none more important than helping the customer mitigate those backspin issues, getting apexes north of 100, and helping him find something to create a little bit more output for his input that he was putting in. And we was able to solve all of these by simply making a head change. And as soon as we put him in the TaylorMade Sim Max, the 10.5 degree version, it was like night and day difference. The extra loft helped get spin up. The CG characteristics was almost like a double whammy here. So having CG back in the head design not only helped with launch and apexes, but it also created a higher MOI situation to just protect ball speed across the entire face. And that's all the customer needed to find a couple extra mile an hour of output. But then we had to actually help the customer overcome that dreaded left side miss. We was able to solve this by doing 2 things, right? So first we had to take loft down using the adjustable sleeve, and believe me, I love using adjustable sleeve for face correction more than I do loft correction. And then we actually knew that that wasn't still quite enough, and one of the tricks of the trade is add a little extra mass to the head. But you just don't want to slap it on in any position, right? And really kind of taking a page out of some of the other head designs that's out on the market is if you can locate that mass in specific quadrants of the head, you can actually either speed up or slow down that face rotation. And by putting that mass in the toe side is really no different than having an adjustable driver with the ability to move the weight from the heel to the toe. And it's really all the customer needed to pipe them down the middle. But then the last thing we had to do was find that best dance partner. You hear me say all the time, the golf shaft is the timing mechanism to help you do so. And as soon as we paired the customer in to the Ventus Blue 6X shaft, it was game over and the customer couldn't have been happier. So in closing, we hope that there were several key takeaways that you walked away with. And if we don't leave you with anything else, then please understand this one. And that is, whenever we take our customers through the fitting process, generally speaking, it's never just one thing. And just like in tonight's example, there were several things we had to help the customer overcome. And it goes a lot deeper than just picking a couple shafts off the wall or a couple heads out of the cabinet. But by focusing on the pain points and understand what are the problems that need to be solved first and foremost, this is truly what will dictate and determine which items you pull out of the matrix. So we truly hope you found value in this information we share with you tonight. And as we close out 2020 and bring in a new year, we want to continue to build on the momentum that you helped us achieve. So guys, thank you again for your support. And before I forget, please click on this link in the top left corner because you still have an opportunity to win a brand new Mizuno ES21 wedge. So if you haven't watched the video yet, the full details is in the video. So click this link now. Should have popped up, but click the link and you can be one step closer. So definitely thank you guys again for your support and have a happy and safe new year.